Hi guys, my name is Vanessa Smedley and I'm a painter. Today we are going to paint this magical autumn scene in kind of an impressionistic style today. Maybe a little bit of Van Gogh, maybe a little bit of Monet thrown in for good measure, but I just thought it would be fun. So, let's do this! Here's the materials list. Feel free to pause and screenshot, or it's also listed in the description. To start out with, I'm just going to mask off this plant in the far right because it's very bright against very dark and I don't feel like painting around that. I didn't show it on camera, but I did also splatter in some of that masking fluid for some random texture. I let all that dry and now I am just pre-wetting all of this with clean water with my Hake brush. I start out with a very watery mix of Payne's Gray. Then I mix Cadmium Free Yellow and Cadmium Free Lemon Yellow together to get a nice medium tone. Then I begin dropping in that Payne's Gray into the wet area and a little bit of the yellow as well. I actually mixed all these up beforehand, but this was Lemon Yellow, Pthalo Blue, and a little bit of Alizarin Crimson. I just didn't want to bore you first thing by showing you all of my mixes up front at once. Directly after dropping in the yellow, I add in the green mixture. And then I add in a little bit of neat sap green. This is a little bit of Cadmium Free Orange and Cadmium Free Red. Then we have Cadmium Free Red and Alizarin Crimson. And then we have some Alizarin Crimson, and I end by mixing with Burnt Umber and Payne's Gray mixed together. Then I drop in the orange, the red mixture, and then the Alizarin Crimson in that order. And then I bring in the brown. And here I'm adding yellow ochre for this pathway. I'm using my number 12 round brush here to lift out a little bit of this green that got carried away into my path. And then I've added some of the Payne's Gray into my green mixture and I'm using that as a green shadow. Then I add in some Payne's Gray for these little sticks in the background and give it a little bit of a spray to diffuse it. Then I come back in and darken some of it up before it dries. I've let that dry completely and now I'm coming back in with some light Payne's Gray and adding in some more defined twigs. Now I'm taking a thicker consistency of the yellow, I'm turning my brush on its side and I'm dry brushing in some details. And I will be doing the exact same thing with all of the other colors here. On the branches that are the closest to the viewer is where I begin to use some of those Van Gogh-like brush strokes. Those quick short strokes are all over his work. Then I continue to darken up this foreground little hill here. And here I begin suggesting all of these reddish leaves that have fallen to the ground. I'm just building up this embankment here by dry brushing each color that's above underneath it. And here I'm just adding in some more Van Gogh-like strokes for the leaves in this closest tree. Just adding a little bit more definition into the path here with some yellow ochre and some burnt umber. And here I'm just splattering in some of that red for texture. Just adding in some more leaves here in the brightest of the reds. Now that all of this is dry, I'm coming back in and using a darker color to differentiate between each little tree here, just to give a little bit of definition. And I've mixed up an even darker version of this green by adding some Payne's gray to it, and I'm just using that to fill in the spaces in between these red leaves. This is for the background trees that are showing through. And here I go with another round of darkening this embankment. I'm using a very thick consistency of Payne's gray for this darkest area underneath the tree. Now it's time to add this tree trunk in, and I do so with a very thick consistency of Payne's gray with a little bit of burnt umber added in. And I mean, it's mostly a silhouette, so I just have made it very dark. And then I begin to add in with my number 6 round brush all of these tiny little branches that are reaching out. And I think I'll have just another round of darkening. And here I'm using a little bit of red for some red leaves, and then I add a little bit of yellow ochre for the shadows on these yellow leaves. So it's finally time to do these green leaves on the side, so I removed all of that masking fluid off camera so that you didn't have to watch me do that. And now I am filling all of that in with my green mix and my darker green mix, and I'm also filling in a few of the white splatters that were left from the splatter that I used for masking fluid as well. And now I figured I would just come back in and add more of these little leaves that are lying on the ground. Sorry, there's really not much to say here. I'm really just employing the same techniques over and over again until I feel like I get to a point where I can say that I'm done. Okay, I think we're finished with the painting portion of this, and now I'm coming back in with some soft pastels to add a little bit more of that detail. I really wanted some of that red to be very, very bright and some of the yellow to be very bright, which is very hard if you're going over the top of green. So I'm just adding in a little bit of pastel. And to be honest, quite a lot of pastel. At this point, really, it probably should be called a mixed media painting because I am adding in quite a bit of pastel. But I really just wanted these colors to be nice and crisp. Then I decided that rough grainy texture of the pastels would be great on this path, so I'm adding in a little bit of the yellow ochre and an off-white there as well. And here's the finished painting, all dried with the tape removed and signed. And there you have it, a nice little autumn scene with trees, trees, more trees, and trees, and a path. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, because that is how this channel gets to grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.